Hey guys, welcome to a special Sunday night edition of the Vinyl Rundown because something interesting happened to me today concerning this. Just got home from a screening of this movie, To Kill a Mockingbird. Saw it on the big screen for the first time in my life. Special movie event. Why are these glasses? We don't need those. Special movie event by Fathom Events and in conjunction with TCM, the movie channel on TV, and it's showing two more times. So today's Sunday, it showed twice. This Wednesday, March 27th, it's showing two more times. So you have two more times to see what is one of the greatest movies of all time. When the book came out, it won a Pulitzer Prize. It is regarded today as possibly the greatest novel, greatest American novel of the 20th century. Here's an early copy of the book. Came out in 1960. This is a special copy for my wife's family. I'll tell you more about that later. The movie came out in 1962, was nominated for Best Picture, but Lawrence of Arabia won. But Gregory Peck actually, only Oscar he ever won was for To Kill a Mockingbird as Best Actor. And I got a lot of trivia on this because there was a little special pre-screening thing that the TCM people did, some trivia. So it's not like I know everything, but passing this on to you guys. Gregory Peck was named the greatest hero of the 20th century in American cinema by the American Film Institute a few years ago. Not superhero, we're not talking Superman, we're talking hero of a movie. So we came home from the movie and immediately looked through the shelves to find the soundtrack. So here's the soundtrack. I'm going to tell you about this also. We just listened to it. Soundtrack came out in 1961. This turns out to be a reissue. This is on the Citadel label from 1981. The original was on an obscure label called Ava Records, which was actually owned by the composer Elmer Bernstein and Fred Astaire, of all people. And the Ava record label only lasted a few years. I don't think they came out with anything else of significance besides this. So this is on the Citadel label, which is related to Varese Sarabande, which does a lot of movie soundtracks. And Citadel, I don't really know much about them. But so we came home and listened to this, and vinyl is nice, by the way. Vinyl is nice, clean vinyl. Got my fingers on it, of course. I'm not supposed to do that. There's the label. Is it upside down? Can't tell. Vinyl is clean, but the transfer is actually terrible. This is probably the hissiest I've ever heard of when they transfer the old analog tapes to vinyl. Probably 20 years after the fact, since this is 1981. Very, very hissy, noisy tape hiss. That's not the vinyl. And a lot of tape dropouts. You can hear tape dropouts, which I'm actually surprised they couldn't clean that up and do a better job. And the cover is a little bit flimsy, so cheap reissue of what is considered one of the great soundtracks in American film, Elmer Bernstein, and they actually recorded this two more times, so there aren't that many soundtracks that are good enough to be re-recorded at a later date. Elmer Bernstein, one of our greatest film composers, he did, trying to remember all the movies he did. He did one of the James Bond movies, he did he do The Great Escape? I think. A lot of movies in the 60s. I can't remember any of them now, guys, sorry. But look him up. So if you haven't seen the movie, like I said, there's two more chances to see it on the big screen in theaters this week, March 27th. But you should certainly rent it or check it out on Netflix if it's on Netflix, or get the DVD. One of the greatest, most important moving films in American cinema. And I hope you read the book. Everybody had to read it in high school, right? Did you all know that Robert Duvall made his movie debut as Boo Radley in this movie? And he doesn't show his face till the very end of the movie. It's kind of a big reveal about Boo Radley. Here's an original early 1960s copy that is very treasured in my family because my wife's father gave it to his wife, my wife's mother, in the early 60s, and there's an inscription here. I guess I need the glasses again, don't I? Hold on. To My Wife from Joe, March 1963. And then she wrote her thoughts. Can you see that? Is that in focus? She wrote a little mini book review. I envy the understanding, wisdom, and relationship Atticus had with his children. Harper Lee's style of writing is marvelous. I'm not reading the whole thing, just a sentence or two. April 4th, 1963. All right, then there's two more reviews in here because this book was sent overseas to my wife's dad's mother and sister-in-law living in Dublin, Ireland. So this book was read by, this very copy was read by 6 or 7 people, and they all wrote their comments in the book. So that is a family treasure. Very nice to have that. And my wife is a big fan of To Kill a Mockingbird and Harper Lee. I just got her this book for her birthday, Mockingbird, a portrait of Harper Lee. So this is a biography of Harper Lee, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. And that's when this story gets weird, because you can count on Greg to take a weird slant on every story out there. Some people are not sure that Harper Lee actually wrote that book, To Kill a Mockingbird. Won a Pulitzer Prize, considered the greatest novel of the century in America. And she only wrote one book. Okay, she wrote one other minor book. How do you go from 0 to Pulitzer Prize in one book? How is that possible? You look at the greatest writers that we have. People wrote a lot of stuff before they came out with a hit, just like having a hit record. Nobody composes, Grammy-winning song in their first try. There's usually lots and lots of failures and lots of struggles. Well, Harper Lee lived in this southern city of Monroe, something in Alabama, and her next door neighbor figures very prominently in this entire story. If you've seen the movie, you know that her next door neighbor was this skinny, wimpy little kid, Dill, who, let's just leave it at that. I guess by today's standards, you would call him a sissy. It was actually Truman Capote. It was based on Truman Capote. Harper Lee's next-door neighbor growing up in Alabama was Truman Capote. And Truman Capote is one of America's greatest novelists of all time. He wrote In Cold Blood, the story of the Clutter murderers in Kansas. And Harper Lee actually was with him as they wrote that, as he wrote it. She went with Truman to the Kansas State Penitentiary to visit the murderers who were ultimately executed for slaughtering this poor farm family. Did Truman Capote help her edit it? Or did he actually write it and just put her name on it? This is a controversy that's been brewing for decades. And anybody who says, well, Harper Lee didn't do it, they're kind of attacked for saying, how could you insult this woman? It's just a theory that's out there. But it is strange that two of the greatest writers in American history grew up side by side, next door neighbors in some small town in Alabama. Anyway, not to besmirch the great reputation of Harper Lee, it is a great book. I hope you read the book. I hope you see the movie. And you have 2 more chances to see the movie in theaters this week on the big screen. And I really want to get an original copy of this on Ava Records from the early 60s. If any of you guys have a copy, and you can tell me if it sounds better than this one. In other words, is this just a bad transfer? But for any of the quiet passages, the tape hiss is very overbearing. All right, guys. That's the special Sunday night edition of Vinyl Rundown, all about To Kill a Mockingbird, the book, the movie, the soundtrack. Thanks for watching.